Great. Thanks, Gina. And then I'm James Hunter. I am the Entrepreneurship and Economic Wellbeing Director with the International Rescue Committee in Salt Lake City. I oversee a broad suite of small business and financial capabilities programs, as well as a farming and food access program called New Roots. Sarah Adams is also here. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Sarah.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Adams. I'm the program manager for the New Roots program, which is part of the IRC, as James mentioned. And we are a food access and agriculture program. So primarily kind of supporting about 45 farmers who are refugee or new American background to start farm businesses and sell their produce back into their community. We also do kind of community garden and food access programming as well. And over the last 2 years or 2.5 years or so, really since the COVID pandemic started, we've been working on a lot of emergency food assistance. So finding ways to route produce that's grown by the farmers in our program back to the communities that could benefit from them. And we've been doing that through kind of a distribution model that's similar to like a CSA style food box that's delivered directly to folks, but excited to kind of talk about the possibilities of getting some of the produce that our farmers are growing to pantries as well through this project.
Great. And James, thank you for prompting Sarah to introduce herself. And I'm going to ask folks to introduce themselves. I'm going to go Deneen, Julie, and Glenn, and then Matt.
Hi, I'm Deneen Adams. I'm the Acting Executive Director for Open Doors, and we are the community action agency that oversees Davis and Morgan County. And I'm sorry for the puppy in the background. And we run a food bank that serves the northern part of the county. We're also very, very close relationships with Bountiful Community Food Pantry, and they're a large food bank in Davis County.
Great. Thank you, Deneen. Julie? Julie Rose here. Do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, her microphone's not working. So Julie works out in Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments. They do great. And you guys run three food banks out there. And then probably like, I know there's a lot going on in San Juan too, that's getting up and running, that's being led by the Utah Food Bank. Glenn, let's have you introduce yourself, and then Matt.
I'm Glenn Bailey at Crossroads Urban Center in Salt Lake City, and we run 2 food pantries in Salt Lake.
Great, thank you. Matt?
Yes, greetings everyone. My name is Matt Melville. I'm with the Christian Center of Park City. 2 pantries, 1 in Park City.
Great. Okay, well, James, I'm going to now turn the time over to you.
Sure. So as Sarah noted, we've been providing emergency food assistance to refugee clients who we serve for a long time, over a decade. But during the pandemic, we started doing fresh produce distributions to refugee families facing acute food insecurity, and coupling that with, we have this network of refugee farmers who we're supporting, being able to purchase fresh produce during the growing season, typically May through November, and then package that into boxes, kind of in a CSA, community supported agriculture style, and get those delivered out to these families. We've been able to do that through a kind of combination of various funding mechanisms, primarily through some CARES Act and other COVID funding. So we've been following this local, this LFPA, this Local Food Purchase Assistance Program, really closely since it was first announced by the USDA, and then obviously since the Department of Health has announced it, because we are doing kind of all aspects of it. We're working with farmers, we're purchasing from farmers, we're distributing it to local communities. Gina and I connected a few weeks ago, and she noted that there's a lot of other smaller food pantries across the state that are also potentially interested. And so we chatted through kind of what the capacity is on our end in terms of being able to purchase and aggregate fresh produce from refugee farmers, and then potentially explore some form of joint proposal for this funding. Yeah, I think that's the summary. I can dive into any of those aspects. Sarah's on the call too. She's our subject matter expert in all things procurement and food access and distribution. But happy, yeah, I don't know where, if we want to dive off into the RFP, Gina, or where you, what else we need to do. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So has everyone reviewed the RFP and is familiar with it?
Yeah, and I'm Deneen, again, I'm with Open Doors. We oversee Davis and Morgan County. We have a food pantry up there. You know, thought it was a great grant. The whole situation was our food bank is so busy and we're so short-staffed and we know nothing about procurement. How to get involved with that. The number one thing we always run out of and we're always asked for in our food bank are fresh vegetables. Our food bank is in Layton. We do have the support of the local farmers there in the summertime when they have an overabundance of fruits and vegetables. It's the number one thing to go. Our goal in the next 3 years for our food pantry is to have it a little bit more healthy eating. We're actually working with Utah State University on heart healthy meals and passing out recipes, but the problem is we never have the food that backs the eating healthy. I think that getting together with people that know a lot about procurement and are willing to do that and look at this is great for us to be able to get this out to the public. We also are in the middle of discussions with Hill Air Force Base on providing them with food. We do get food from their commissaries, but we're trying to take things up another level so that all of their airmen that may be too embarrassed to go to the resources on base, we can bring the food to them on base. They don't have to come down to the food pantry.
That's great. Yeah, and I think our interest is, you know, we have capacity to distribute probably about $50,000 in fresh produce annually to refugee clients who we're serving, but we're working with farmers who, you know, they're growing another 250,000 plus, you know, this year in fresh produce that would be available and to folks for purchase. And so are familiar with working with aggregated type systems, so selling into to food pantries. And so maybe bridging some of those connections. We don't have statewide distribution networks, but you know, I think in my mind, a partnership like this would look like, you know, each pantry working to connect with some of those local farmers, and we can do it collectively and work within some of the established farmer networks to find, you know, farmer. Yeah.
So James, how many farmers does your project have? How many farmers are you interacting with?
We worked with, I think 50 this year. Yeah. So, and growing everything from small scale, like micro farmers growing on an 1/8 or 1/4 acre up to folks growing on 3 or 4 acres. So generally all small scale, but really tailored for growing fresh produce and being able to deliver that to markets. Yeah.
And so do you think that thinking about the RFP and like building out an application, do you think that there's the capacity for the farmers to supply enough produce for how many pantries?
It really depends on volume, right? I think there's probably capacity for $100,000 to $150,000 worth of produce annually, and so we're looking at
how many pounds is that?
It would, yeah, it would vary. Generally, we use a 1 pound per dollar calculation, but it really depends on what the produce items are. So you know, a pound of kale and a pound of potatoes, you know,
Right.
obviously have different price points.
Okay. And then so I'm just thinking, if I'm jumping ahead and we need to back up and sort of talk more details, please let me know. So do you envision this, James, as IRC would take the lead? And then, so, I mean, I haven't looked at the budget document, so I'm not really sure how that works. I mean, if you guys were the lead and say we asked for $150,000, then what role would the other pantries play? You know, one of the things I guess I'm most interested in seeing, obviously, is supporting the local farmers and getting, local product into pantries. But the other thing that I've been thinking of is that 20%, I'm sorry, the 40% of the funding that can be administrative, and thinking about that and how to help support some of the smaller pantries financially.
Yeah, I think so. We had been considering this crafting a proposal for this project separately from this. I think in a multi-partner project like this, we're not maybe quite as well suited to be the lead applicant on it. We have some really burdensome requirements or organization on fiscal partnerships, and so we would be happy to be an active and supportive partner on it. But if another agency, or Utahns Against Hunger, right, would be able to take the lead role in that, I would see our role as being twofold. One, being a pantry, being a participating pantry in terms of purchasing and distributing food under this project, and then two, being that liaison in helping to distribute some of this produce to northern Utah pantries. I think like Utah to Weber County, and then maybe somewhere in Tooele County, kind of being like like a 6-county area, which we would have distribution capacity for that fresh produce, but then working in collaboration to help other pantries across the state find and make those connections. But yeah, our fiscal requirements are really onerous.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You guys have got it's the national office and all of those complications. What are other people's thoughts about? I don't think that Utahns Against Hunger right now is in a position to take the lead, and we are distributing food anyway. But what are other people's thoughts on this? Jessica?
Yeah, well, I can jump in here. I'm Jessica Miller. I'm with Community Action Services and Food Bank. And so we are interested in applying for this grant, and the kind of the missing link for us was the producer side. And so we have 6 pantries in Utah, Wasatch, and Summit counties, but we also have funding that starting this year, in the next few months, we're going to have a number of AmeriCorps volunteers that we'll be able to place in other organizations, and that I think really would be a good fit for supporting this grant and in helping with distribution and with just supporting in different pantries to get the local food on the shelves and to clients. So it's definitely something that we are interested in applying for. And so I'm excited to hear about this resource through the IRC and the farmers that they have available that can connect.
Matt?
Yeah, so we're also going to be applying. We're partnering right now with Summit County Health Department. They're kind of being the one right now that's kind of looking into which farms qualify for it, or at least the 75% of the purchases. But our concern is just kind of twofold, that if we can find enough farms that qualify, I mean, obviously if we get the money, but that qualify. And then our hard part is also because of staffing and transportation logistics, where we're able to go. If it's something we can include on some of our other grocery rescue routes, it really helps. But we really don't have the bandwidth to be kind of going all over, Wasatch and Summit counties and Salt Lake County for produce. but our goal is kind of to work with some of our farmers markets with the county and have those farmers, if they do qualify, purchase from them when they come to the Park City Farmers Market. So we can get hopefully like 4 or 5 farmers all in one shot is kind of our goal. And then to do something similar in Wasatch County for our Heber pantry. Yeah, the problem, we're just wanting to make sure we have farms. And I guess if, you know, if IRC, James, if y'all have, you know, enough quantity and connections that could make it worthwhile for a trip down the canyon, we could look into that. But also we could have volunteers pick up. That's another option as well that'll save us money.
Right, and we already aggregate and deliver produce in kind of that 5 or 6 county area anyway. So we already have weekly or bi-weekly runs up the canyon to make deliveries in Summit County to other, and not food pantries, but like grocers or restaurants. So it's something that we were trying to look at. What is our existing distribution model? Farmers sell independently, but we do aggregate a fair amount of produce and sell on their behalf. So it wouldn't be something that would be unreasonable to add in, you know, as long as it's, you know, relatively convenient, you know, we don't have the capacity to drop off to 10 different locations in Summit County, right? But if we can just drop off to a main food pantry, that wouldn't be out of the question.
So I guess, I mean, I am also not a procurement expert in any way. I mean, know nothing about it. So what would be the next steps? I mean, Jessica, you said that you're interested in some sort of partnership. Matt, what about you guys? Glenn, what are your thoughts, and have you been thinking about what a model would look like for Crossroads?
No, I'm just interested in getting more food.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. We don't need any of the money from the grant or anything like that. I'm just interested in being a place where we could distribute some food if that makes sense. If it doesn't, that's cool. But, you know, with the food stamp benefits ending and everything, we're already super busy. So any kind of new food source that we could develop, particularly fresh, healthy foods, would be great. And if that's something that doesn't work for Salt Lake or whatever, that's fine. I just thought I'd check it out because we'd be willing to be a partner in terms of the distribution end.
Yeah, and I think that I think this is due, I want to say January 23rd. Is that right, James?
Yeah, January 30th.
30th. So I mean, it's going to take a bit of planning and working together. And so I know that Comunidades Unidas is interested, and they have had, they are not currently taking food from the Utah Food Bank because they have to take what the Utah Food Bank offers. And they have been trying to offer more culturally appropriate food to the folks that they're serving. And like I said, they're just doing it once a month. So I know that they're very interested in participating. And so I'm just like, what are our next steps? I mean, if folks just want to do a separate application, well, no, that's not going to work, because I think the floor is $150,000, right? And that would be a lot for some of the smaller pantries. I don't think that they would even have the capacity to like sort of do that big of a grant. Maybe not. Maybe I'm totally off on that. But, and that's why I was thinking that a joint application of some smaller organizations would be a good idea, because then, I mean, the minimum we could ask for would be 150 up to $1 million. And that's, I mean, that would be huge.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a minimum that high.
Yeah.
I think that's why the county wanted, I think that Summit County wants to be the lead then on it. And they were having us working with us and other pantries up here because that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
potentially.
it is. Yeah, and I had
Is it one-
forgotten that.
Is it 150 for the 3 years or is that per year or how is that, I guess?
That is 150 over the course of the grant.
Oh, maybe we could probably do that. 50 a year is because it's a 3-year grant, right?
I think it's a 2-year grant. James, do you know if it's 2 or 3?
33 months.
Okay,
Funding periods,
almost 3 months.
Yeah.
Almost 3 years.
April 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2025.
Well,
mean-
we can definitely, take the lead as an applicant, and we can even work with Summit County and with CCPC as well. I mean, if we need to get up to that 150, because really the producer side, I think, is really going to dictate how large of an application we can submit. And so, like I said, we do have the staffing through our AmeriCorps volunteers that we would be able to put towards this. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. And the AmeriCorps is not restricted to just those 3 counties. So it can also go up into Weber and I believe Cache County, and it's a wider area. And so, if we will throw our hat in there if we want to be the lead applicant, and we can work with different sites to be distribution points and to maybe have some AmeriCorps support as well, and to work with the IRC to coordinate on procurement and getting it out to the food pantries.
Justin, can you say that again? Did you say 33 months is the length of the grant, right?
Yeah,
Well, I didn't
33
say, I
months.
don't have it. Let me pull it up here.
Because that's
Yeah.
about $4,500 a month. And I could easily spend $5,000 to $10,000 a month on fresh produce. My worry is having farmers that I can purchase from each month that can kind of, or at least provide
So I'm seeing here, it says 100,000 to $1 million awarded over 2 years. So is 100,000 the actual floor?
Yeah, it must be. I just misremembered that it was 100 or the 150.
There's been a couple iterations, I think, of that RFP. I think, let me pull up the most recent one. I may be looking at an outdated version. Yeah, so 150,000 to 1 million over a 33-month period is the most recent RFP. They went back and forth and changed it over the course of those stakeholder meetings.
And I know the Utah Food Bank and the Utah Farm Bureau are applying, and I would imagine that they would apply for the maximum amount. So, and they're going to be, I mean, and I have not talked to them. I've not followed up with Jeanette about what their application will entail, but at the meeting that we had where Natalie came and talked to our SNAP outreach partners, they indicated that they would plan on distributing, the part of theirs, like the Utah Food or the Utah Farm Bureau, for example. I mean, they will probably use that funding to distribute and purchase for their miracle projects. And the Utah Food Bank, I mean, I know that they have mobile pantries and things like that all over the state. So there's still going to be more than $1 million available, at least for that 2-year period. Or is it 33? Is it 2 years or 33 months?
The most recent RFP showing 33 months.
33 months. Okay.
I think another kind of takeaway from some of those initial stakeholder meetings and then the RFP was they're wanting to prioritize like collaborative projects that are, not necessarily just that minimum amount. And so there might be some
Right.
strategic advantage to
Yeah,
collaborating, getting in more partners and going for a higher amount as well, which is kind of what we were thinking about in terms of like whether to pursue it individually or more as a collective with that kind of community focus.
so there were more people like Brent Crane, for example, from Utah County wanted to be here. So what are next steps to explore sort of a partnership? I have not read the RFP. It's been a few minutes since I've reviewed that. But where do you want to go from here? And do you all want to be sort of included in the conversation or what? I mean, Matt, you indicated that you thought you could easily spend 150,000 over 3 years. So, I mean, are you interested in a partnership or doing something by solo for Christian Center of Park City?
Whatever increases our chances of getting the money. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, we could easily do 150 over 33 months.
Yeah,
Easily.
I mean, and that's just the minimum. I mean, we
Exactly,
like
yeah.
as a collective, we could ask for $1 million.
Yeah.
And just in my experience with our other programs and writing grants collectively, you always have a much higher rate of success when everybody comes together. And I think with who's sitting at the table right now, we have a really good segmentation of who's representing what. We all represent different counties. Some of our programs are the same. We're a community action agency. The procurement piece, I love the AmeriCorps piece. If you guys could actually, with all the partners who were there, also send an AmeriCorps worker with that partnership, I think that's a win-win, because that's putting people to work through AmeriCorps, number one. Number two, it's giving food banks, our staffing issues are horrible right now, and then it's giving us food right there in itself. Plus, you're helping farmers. That's a win-win. But the issue is, do we maybe want to partner with someone even bigger like Utah Food Bank, or do we want to compete with Utah Food Bank? I think that's the
Well, and
decision.
and that was my thought. I don't know that, certainly, Jeanette indicated that they were applying in partnership with the Utah Farm Bureau, and they may be open to other partners. But even if they ask for the maximum amount, there's still $1.2 million available. And so I don't think that it's going to be in competition with the Utah Food Bank. And I think the producer side, I think that is going to be challenging for everyone. And that's why I really like the idea of joining with the IRC, because they have a community of farmers who are already working together with a pretty similar project.
So if you look at who's sitting at the table right now, we pretty much have everything covered to write a really strong grant.
Oh, I agree. I think
we have all the counties covered. We have, the procurement side. We have, I think it's a great idea. I think it would be a really strong grant, and I think it would be good. But now it would just be saying, exactly strategically what's going to happen.
Right, the details and just the next steps.
What does the lead mean, and what do we need? Do we need to put together a group that's going to support the lead, and kind of thinking of those types of things.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the practical stuff, and I think next steps, I would want to loop in the folks from Comunidad Unidas, because I think that they would actually really strengthen the application, and go from there. And Jessica, if you're interested in taking the lead, I would just say I would pass over leadership of this group to you. I can send you the names of the people who indicated they were interested, or you could just email the group from the email that I sent and just go from there. And I want to be supportive. I'm just, with the session coming up, frankly, the thing that I will be working most on is funding for pantries. The governor's recommendation of $800,000, and then Senator Escamilla also wants to ask for money from her colleagues in social services appropriations. So, and right now I'm down a staff person. Neil's mother is very ill, and so he's spending some time with her. So I don't feel comfortable being lead, but I am more than happy to help facilitate meetings or whips people's interest, whatever, whatever this group needs from me.
Well, yeah, and we would be happy to do that, to fill that role. And so I guess how much is the total amount of funding statewide? It's more than just 1 million, correct?
2.2 million, I think, is what's available.
Okay, so hypothetically, we could, if we had enough growers, we could ask for 1 million.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because I do think that, I mean, capacity wise in our food banks, I do think that we would be able to sustain a large application. And so it's just a matter of finding those growers. And so if there are other groups that we can tap into that, would expand that number, then I think that would be wonderful.
Well, what are your thoughts on having Jessica put together a work group with interested organizations and go from there?
I think that's great. That's a really strong next step.
Okay.
And then maybe a shared document, and we can each kind of include, because I'm sure everybody's kind of partnering with other people, and like have, y'all be the overarching agency, and then each of us, like, we're working with these people, and then we can kind of loop in all of the parts and pieces and really have a grand slam application.
Yeah, I think that sounds great, so that we can kind of know all the different players that are, will be participating. And so we can address that in our application. I think that will make it stronger.
And there is two assistance meetings left that they have on the 10th and the 18th, it looks like.
Oh, right, the office hours.
Yeah, that you can tune into or go to their office too. Yeah, so I'll probably try to listen in on that one on the 10th at 4 o'clock or so as well, just to hear what else and maybe ask a few questions.
And I can participate in those as well. Yeah. Okay, well then I can do that. I can utilize the list, the email list that Gina sent out, and I am not familiar with where everybody is from that's on the call right now. Let's see, it sounds like Glenn Bailey is from Crossroads and Deneen is Open Doors. But I'm not sure where Sarah and Julie are from.
Julie's microphone is not working. She's out in Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments. And then Matt is up at Christian Center of Park City, and Sarah is also with the IRC.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
And then Jessica, let me know what you need from me, and I can send you the contact information from Comunidades Unidas too.
Perfect. Yeah.
And then just let me know what you need.
Okay. Yes, I can definitely do that. And then any other growers that we can bring on board, or contacts that you have that I can reach out to kind of recruit more on that side, I would appreciate getting those from you as well.
We can help provide a list, especially in central and northern Utah, of growers that we interact with and know. And there's a lot of smaller scale growers who would be interested, I think, statewide, especially when you step forward and say, we can buy your produce for the next 3 years. That's going to be really attractive. So I'm actually not as negative. I'm actually really positive and think that finding the growers won't be as big of an issue once we get going, if it's awarded.
I'm happy to hear that. And so I'm excited. I think this is going to be a really great opportunity, and it will benefit so many people on the grower side and our clients, as well as our organizations. And so it makes a lot of sense to work together and put together a great application.
Okay, any other thoughts?
Yeah, Julie, anything that you need, please shoot an email. We can start getting things organized together. I like what Matt said about letting you know who our other partners are. Anything else you would need, maybe shoot an email with a template on it. We can fill it out, just get mundane information out of the way.
Yeah, so
Oh,
you can
yeah.
focus on the,
Yeah.
on the substantive stuff for it.
And I think there's a letter of support required from each partner, so we can all start working on that as well too.
Yeah, and we have Rebecca from Bountiful who just joined us too. But Rebecca, we were just starting to wrap up talking about next steps. Community Action Partnership in Provo is going to take the lead and reach out to the organizations who want to be part of a joint application.
And Rebecca, I already said Bountiful Community Food Pantry was part of this, so
Thank you so much, Deneen. I appreciate it. Sorry,
I
I was
didn't ask your
late.
permission. I just said you were our partner.
You were correct. You're correct. Thank you, Deneen.
Okay, anything else that we want to solidify before we hop off?
I just say, Gina, thanks for getting us all together. This is great.
Oh, yeah. And thank you for tolerating all of my emails about I'm easily distracted these days. So I appreciate you all participating and expect to hear from Jessica about next steps. And let me know if any of y'all need anything. If you need information, if you want any information about number of households on SNAP by zip code or county, let me know, because I've got the most recent data available from DWS on that. So we can help provide, I think, some data support on the side of the application. So let me know
That sounds wonderful.
what
Thank
you
I
need,
do- I would like
and
that.
Saying
Um,
that, yeah, that would be great.
everybody have a beautiful weekend. Hopefully the weather will improve a little bit. It's kind of rainy here today, or at least looks rainy. So anyway, have a good rest of your afternoon and enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay,
So,
bye-bye.
bye.
Thanks.